This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast.
Did you guys see this? This is unbelievable. What is that all about, Kinger?
Get in here for the real thing. Like, let's get weird.
Maybe I blacked out trying to figure out what was going on.
Doubt, worry, fear, because that's what we're breaking the mold on here.
Welcome to Wild on 7th, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back to Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast, presented by Pilot Games. What a! I suppose this is a play on words, but what a wild week it has been. It started off with an afternoon game, President's Day, the next generation game, and boy, were the kids treated. First of all, that day the building was loud. There was a lot of young kids, and it was awesome, and they were treated to quite the game. 10-7, but it went. The Wild go into gauntlet. Well, we called it Gauntlet Week because it was a back-to-back against basically the West's best at the time. It's Vancouver coming to town, back-to-back, got across the border, customs, all that, into Winnipeg. Then you get a day or two, and it's right back to Edmonton and then Seattle. So 2 sets of back-to-back, 4-game week. Against some of the best in the West, and it was kind of do or die time. Man, I don't know, but the way that they played in the Vancouver game, it's like a streak saver. They were good out of the gates after the All-Star break, and man, that one, didn't that game just make you feel like, oh my goodness, there actually is a chance that they're going to make the playoffs, and not only there's a good chance that they're going to make the playoffs, but that they actually could go on a run.
Watching this team the last few games, especially Edmonton, Seattle, they look like a team that can win a playoff round. They look like a team that could be a handful if we can get there. You know, I'm just shocked waking up this morning, check the standings. I would have told you, Carts, that I expected to be pleasantly surprised that we were in the second wild card spot. No, we're second back of the wild card, but games in hand for the Kings. I guess Nashville's played one more game than us, but they have 4 more points than us. St. Louis and us right at 62 points. The bottom of the wild card is 66. It is amazing that you can be playing this well for this long and just make inches, just barely move up the standings. So I hope we can just keep going because it's fun. They look awesome.
And that's why they say, you know, it's hard, even when it looks like you're just 5 points back and there's 25 games left, that it's not that big a deal. But you all of a sudden have to go on these runs and be that much better than everybody else that's ahead of you in that spot. But the Wild have been, and they have closed the gap. Like St. Louis was 5 points up to start the week, and you look at it now, the Wild do have an extra game played, but they're tied all of a sudden. They've made up the 5 points.
Well, the thing that gave me the most satisfaction, when I was at my lowest, you know, TV tray, laying on the bathroom floor, finding websites with % chance to make playoffs, it said 3%. I looked at that same evil pie chart. I stared into the eye of the pie chart this morning, Carts. 24.6% chance to make the playoffs. So that is progress. It's still only 1 in 4. You know, if you're playing 3-card Monty, that's a tough bet. But I don't know. They look good.
Yeah. We will have to revisit some of these games because each game this week was kind of meaningful for different reasons. But we can look at the playoff picture right now. I think there's going to be a couple of the teams in the West that drop off, and the deadline's coming up.
Yep, buyers and sellers.
And these teams are in really tough spots. Ironically, the Wild aren't in a tough spot because there's not much that they can do. You can't go out and buy. Now, I think they could go buy a player on an expiring contract. I haven't looked at the money that closely, but you've got Jared Spurgeon and his $7 million on LTIR. So you could probably go get a guy, but you probably don't want to give up a bunch of assets to do that. But so they could. They can't sell. That's what I mean when I say there's not much that they can do. But you've got Calgary, who all of a sudden is playing great or better. they've got 58 games played, same as the Wild, 1 point back, and they've got 2D. They've already sent Lindholm and Zadorov to Vancouver. There's chatter about Hanifin and Tanev, two of their top defensemen, being dealt too. And if they're kind of in this retool, let's get younger kind of phase, or even do we feel like we can win a round, 2 rounds, a Stanley Cup with this group, maybe that would change their mind. But I can't imagine you look at that roster and say, okay, yeah, we could win a Stanley Cup right now. I think that they'll probably sell at least one of those pieces, if not more. Maybe they're working on trying to re-sign them. But point is, they're getting likely worse, not better.
Yep.
And then Seattle, we saw, like, that's a hard-working club. And I don't think that they're going to be an easy out for anybody on any given night. But it also didn't look like a team that was terribly threatening.
It reminds me of the old Wild.
Yeah.
Before we had NHL store guys. You know, before you could roll out those 5 guys that Hines is rolling out constantly, which we'll get to. Yeah, they're just working their ass off.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before the break, is that they're a well-coached team. They don't have any studs. They have some guys that are good, don't get me wrong, and can score and can do things, but they don't have, Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Baldi, guys like that. They don't. They're built more probably from their back end out, solid defense, and then just a bunch of hard-working middle six kind of guys. But they could go on a run and win some games. But I think, like, of the St. Louis, Calgary, Seattle, Minnesota, Nashville contingent that is all kind of right there fighting for that last wild card playoff spot, I still kind of have the Kings up there.
A different tier.
Yeah. And if you can, I don't see them falling from grace to where they're out of the playoffs.
Couple games in hand makes it hard.
Yeah, so I think that they're going to be one of the teams that's there, and there's that final playoff spot that's available. But I think Calgary could fall off. I think Seattle could fall off. St. Louis has been playing good too, like Binnington, but they're certainly capable of falling off down the stretch. We play them a bunch, so that the playoff livelihood might depend solely on those games, and there's one coming up this week, which will be – there's 2 must-watch games. It's Nashville and St. Louis. But, yeah, you're chasing your division, so you get a chance to play those guys. That's great. But 24.6, for me personally, I think it's probably a little bit higher than that they make the playoffs, especially if they continue to play like this.
Well, that's all I want. And I do want to kind of just to kind of go back through the week that was. You did the game. You did the President's game, right? You were in the.
We did all the games.
So I've never heard more. People were calling into radio after that game saying, "I've never been to anything like this in my life. I took my kid. It was just unbelievable." As an analyst, when you're working, you're in the press box, obviously. What was that? Because that Kirill goal, when they're in the scrum, and it's just forever and ever, and it finally pops out, and he threw it in. I mean, I was in my office in Stillwater. I flipped a chair over. I was so happy. And what was that like? I mean, can you feel the wave coming up to you?
Yeah, I think you could. You really could, and I think you could see and feel Vancouver getting ready to crumble too. And it's not like they absolutely gave that game away, but we do have to probably credit. I don't know if luck is the right word, but the Wild are getting they've had some good fortune. 4 5-on-3s in a single game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and they get 5-on-3 goals, and then they're scoring on them. So, but where you have to give them credit is like their 5-on-3 is like it's absolutely automatic. They've had 5 this week, and they scored on 4 of them. They've all been over 90-some seconds. That's unbelievable. Now, you're gonna reverse engineer that and say, okay, well, yeah, without 5-on-3 goals, they have a real tough week. Like it changes things, but they got the power plays at the right time. You earn your breaks also. So those 5-on-3s were because they were winning battles. They were getting to the inside. Sticks were getting loose. Teams were having to reach and do different things just to try to get the puck. And boom, referees see it, call 5-on-3. But yeah, you could see Vancouver kind of all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, like this is our third 5-on-3 in a row. Second period, the biggest goal of that game was, I think, it was the 5-3 goal end of the second. So they're down 5-2. There's a minute left. There's a 5-on-3 to end the second period.
Is that the Zuki goal?
I can't even keep the goal straight. There was
a lot.
Yeah, I think that was the Zuki goal.
Where he tried to pass it and it hit the defenseman.
Off the D-men's. He tries to force a play and it goes in.
Perfect. Zuki goal. Pass it into the net, yeah.
Yeah. But that made it 5-3, came out on the power play, and got right back to work in the third. Seven goal third period.
Of course.
Ridiculous. I had 2 girls in the stadium and or in the arena, and I get home, and my middle's like, Dad, that game was so fun. But my legs kept getting tired because in that last period, I'd have to stand up the whole time because everybody's cheering to see everything. And right when we would be able to sit down again, they'd score, and I'd have to stand up again. So her legs were all burning from having to sit and stand the whole time. But the kids that went to that game have a core memory. They were treated to something. Now, hopefully, they just don't expect that every single time they go to a game.
I'm so mad I didn't go. President's Day. Wander over to St. Paul. I mean, I would have loved to have that time stamped. Hey, what was your take on the Kirill hat trick? Couple seconds left, because I'm watching it and I swear he blushed. I like right after he did it. I honestly think I could see him he was processing if he should have done that or not. Time's running out. Pick up the hat trick. I'm just curious. I don't know. Stop it if you can. It's a hat trick, couple seconds left. What do you think of stuff like that? Is that in the code? Are you supposed to just rifle it down the boards and not try to pick up an extra cookie?
No.
Right? You just go until somebody stops you.
Yeah, dude's paid to score goals.
Oh, I loved it, but it was it felt weird. It felt sort of like everyone was kind of like, is that, can we do that?
Because there was not much time left.
It's
the game could have been over.
That's cool. That's fine, right? That's okay. But I just didn't know if NHLers are like, the Russian, he reached into the cookie jar one too many times.
No, the way I would look at that is that goal's that's like a career goal. That's not like a game goal.
3 hat tricks in one game.
Yeah, that's crazy too. we'll have to.
I don't even know. You probably know from doing the broadcast. That never happens. A hat trick of hat tricks.
There are some times where if somebody, I can't remember what game it was. It was out east, and I think it was Ottawa with a slapper in the empty net from 5 feet out against Toronto, and Toronto got upset.
Yeah, and he lost his.
That was
Morgan
excessive,
Riley lost his mind.
That was like a statement, I think, with the body language and with the way he scored, and that was like a middle finger to the bench on the way by. So
related, you're gonna love this. As a dude, a dad of only daughters, there's a player Murph. This girl Murph, she's basically like Calamity Jane on the Gopher hockey team. This weekend, she gets an empty netter. Now the whole thing's already played out with Ottawa and Toronto. It's gone. It was tried on social media for 2 weeks. She does a slapper, empty netter. And as she's on the glass and the girl from the other team comes over to get her, she's like this. She's like, yeah, come on in here and try to swing at me. Cause she knew that she knew the source material. She had reviewed the, Ottawa versus Riley, dossier, and decided, yeah, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit a slapper, and actually, I'll welcome you when you come to the glass.
Yeah, you're right. She's ready for it.
Yeah, you're not going to get.
So how did it play out
in the back? Nothing. They just kind of pushed her away, and because she was ready for the response. It wasn't like the guy on Ottawa that was kind of turning, and then he just gets the cross check to the back of the neck. But yeah, I love that. I like a little hate. A little scumbag, a little borderline. Taking liberties was always the phrase. I don't know.
Yeah, but so now, I
don't really think
that's
he
like
did
a season
either.
goal, like a career goal. Everybody else on every single bench knows that every goal counts the same.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, they don't
get
ask
paid.
how, they ask how many.
That's right.
So that one from Kaprizov wasn't like a Riley Gregg slapper to an empty net. That's a purposeful middle finger to you. That looked like a, hey, my job is to score goals.
Yeah.
If I'm going to get to 40, I need a couple of these kind of thing.
That's right.
And that's why there was no problem with it.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be a problem with that one. I mean, it's in the net. Like everybody tries for that one. Like, are you going to get upset with Zuccarello because it's a 4-2 game and he launches one from his own blue line? And no, man, like that's just the way it is. But back to we should have we should have tried to see what hat sales were on President's Day, because it had to have set an individual record. There had to be so much hat hair in that building after that game, where guys and gals are running out just saying, I've got to cover this. I've got no hat left. Because if you were a Vancouver fan, you lost it.
Yep. And if you were a Wild fan, even if you didn't do it the first time, because you were kind of like, you turned to your son, like, I really like this John Deere hat. I got it when I got the tractor. And then the second hat trick comes around and your kid's looking at you like, be a part of it.
Yeah.
You have to throw it, right?
That's what I'm saying. You got to toss that thing. There wasn't a hat left in the building. My daughter was actually like, Dad, I didn't have a hat, but like there was a handout of like these little stuffed Nordies, and she was tossing her Nordie down there to try to get it on the ice. It wasn't a hat, but she just wanted to partake in tossing something on the ice.
I loved going to that game for your daughter was like 4 days in Vegas. Like where she was just like, Dad, I mean, it was great. The burn in my legs, and then the up and the down and the yelling, and the hats. I mean, she's just probably asleep in the car on the way home.
So then move on to the Winnipeg game.
Terrible. Hate Winnipeg so much.
Right. But they're pretty good.
They're really good. And I think, I'd be curious what the fan base thinks, but I think the Jets and the Dallas Stars are our two biggest rivals. We've had so much on the injury side with Carell and Winnipeg, and they just seem mean and evil. And then Dallas with the whole history of the team leaving and the snarky social media person and the playoffs. Yeah, I didn't like that. It gave you a sense, Carts, like that's a different, like we're doing this wild card thing with all the people trying to figure it out. And then the Winnipeg is sort of like, there's another gear up here. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was probably more matchup. Like the way that the Wild are playing right now, coming out of the All-Star break, Hines has kind of said he wants them to compete and he wants to play fast, and it's kind of been these buzzwords. And it took him a while, I think, to actually fully figure it out and embrace it, and for Hines to figure out what the roster composition needs to look like, what the lines need to look like, how to tinker with it. The systems, but all of a sudden now you're seeing it kind of come together, and they're fast. Like they're playing fast, and
they're big.
Yeah, and Winnipeg plays the same way. That's what it was in that game. It was like fast, boom, boom. Neither club could like slow the game down, but Winnipeg's just been doing it a little bit longer than the Wild have, and they were just a little bit better at it. But you go up to Edmonton, and man, it was too much for the big studs in Edmonton. If it weren't for those power play cookies, that was an absolutely dominant game from the Wild 5-on-5.
They hate the Wild. Like Draisaitl, McDavid. I mean, you were talking about it in the broadcast. He's just so frustrated. I mean, I would love to play Edmonton in a 7-game series and send the mouth breather home. You know, okay, boy prodigy, Canadian, shoved down our throat, McDavid, just go sit on the couch again, never win a cup. I would love to play it.
I haven't seen, and I think it is they hate playing against the Wild.
They absolutely hate it. And I think
they haven't been good.
Brodin's a real problem for them. I think Ek is a problem for them. That's a great matchup for us, Edmonton.
5-on-5.
Oh, all day. I'd take it all day.
Like they knew that they had to get power plays to win that game. And they took the first 20 minutes off, Edmonton did, and especially the Stars. I touched on this on the broadcast too. This is absolutely ridiculous. The Wild maybe, again, talk about fortune. So McDavid blew a tire early in that game, and then he left for like a shift or two.
And he wasn't himself for a couple periods. I saw him, you were saying it on the broadcast. He wasn't showing you the speed for a little bit.
He didn't have an edge.
That's why he didn't actually have an edge on his skate for like 2 periods.
But now, like every equipment guy, every player has like the quick release steal.
Yeah.
So you don't have to miss a shift. You can, even at a whistle, mid-shift, go switch out your steal in seconds
And
be
he
right
doesn't
back
have
out there.
that?
No, he wants it old school.
Oh, my
So it's
God.
old school. He has to go take his skate off. Then they have to bring it to the sharpener. Then he has to sharpen his skates. Then he has to tie
Well,
it back on.
we can mess with this. We know the shovel girls. We could have like
Home ice
leave-
advantage.
Yeah, we could leave stuff
Stones on the bench.
that dulls his blade, and he can't deal with it until the end of the period.
That edge took him out of the first period of that game.
So how would you do that in a game? Like, what would be your emery board? You know,
You put sandpaper on the dasher by the door where you step out.
I love this.
I don't know about sandpaper. If that
I don't
would
know
do it,
who
but
the-
you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know who the equipment guys are at the Wild, but if they happen to listen to this podcast,
You know how the
what
yellow
to do.
dashers at
Yeah.
the bottom of the boards? Maybe in that little spot where their door is, where they come in and out, you just put like limestone, like yellow limestone or something.
Even their hallway when they're walking out. Just get like bad carpet or whatever. Like, I know it's a mat, but get like a worse mat.
Yeah. Just have it be like every locker room at every youth arena where the snow tracks in 1,000 pebbles, and on your way out to the rink, you inevitably step on one, and there goes your edge. Now mom
I
and dad
want
are
it.
mad at you
he
for
wants it old school.
$7 skate sharpening and 90 minutes of their life back to the pro shop.
Yeah, I don't fear Edmonton. And then we talked about the Kraken. The Kraken's like playing the Jacques Lemaire Wild, right? So it was a good week, man. And now,
Good week. It was a great week. 6 points out of that.
yeah,
That's
just
a-
and so fun. I don't mind the late start either, too. Kind of, getting a little loose, come home. It was great. You did a nice job, by the way.
Thanks. But late start got me a little bit. I got adjusted to the Pacific time pretty quick. Last night was a rough one. Trying to get some sleep. But let's talk the other thing that's I think showing up in the Wild game that is incredibly impressive is just like the mentality and it doesn't matter the script of the game. They're playing the exact same no matter what. They're down 5-2 against Vancouver, didn't change a thing. They give up a goal first shift in Seattle, didn't change a thing. Get up a couple in Edmonton, didn't change a thing. Like, they're playing the same way, and I don't know how they're doing it, but
And it's hammer down.
And it's
pedal down.
it's pedal down, and it's every game. That's 4 straight games and more. It's been like 7 straight games where they've played the exact same way, regardless of score, scenario, anything. And it's like it's working. They have like that next game mentality. They just go out and compete. They're not out of any game. And let's go back. What was it, 2 years ago? When they were like the comeback kids.
Yeah.
The third period, empty net, 6-on-5 magic.
So many
They were
moments.
never out of a game. If the Wild didn't have that mentality right now, they wouldn't be in the playoff spot that they are. It wouldn't be 24.6%. It would be like 9.2%. So they've just got a lot of good things going for them right now. And we'll have to touch on this at another point too. But some of it might be because that top line is on such a heater, and like across the NHL, you kind of see it now. If you have like that one line that's kind of unstoppable, you can be a really good regular season team. Look at Edmonton, one line that can really do it. They'll get you there. Now, if the other guys on the Wild can start, if you can get secondary scoring, we should look at that right now.
I did some math. Maybe the first time ever in the history of the podcast. I don't even know if these numbers are right because I was on like
Don't fact check this.
Google Sheets and a notebook and looking at photos from both years.
Before we get into that math, though,
Oh, I know what's coming.
yeah.
How are you going to go
if
from
you're-
math to it though?
Yeah, if you're a calorie counter,
Yep.
you could eat a nice healthy snack, like let's say raw vegetables, and eat a low calorie food. But if you love some extra flavor, you could get a good dip.
Jimmy's is where it all adds up. It's dip season, and it's going to be 61 degrees here, folks. You're probably trying to find a golf course. Do you really want to walk? Maybe. You're out there. It feels healthy right now. So go get a dip from Jimmy's. Walk into your Cub or your local grocery store, get a vegetable dip, get a dill dip, put veggies in there. I don't care if you put chips in there. Balance is everything. Minnesota company, family run down in Stewartville, Minnesota. Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
Speaking of 60 degrees, it's Monday's high of 60. I think Sunday, the extended forecast had it near 70. That's get outside weather. And we do want to get outside, but it's not wise to get on your roof. I can picture myself climbing up there. It's a dark roof with one of those, like, you know, those things you put in your windshield in your car that like deflect the light.
Yeah.
I want that right now, like all over.
To get tan?
Yeah. But I don't recommend that. But if you were on your roof, it would be wise to take a look around because storm damage can show up to 12 months later. I don't know if you knew that, Kinger.
No, I had thought it was 11 months, but that's good to know that it's a full calendar year.
But I'd like you to stay off your roof. But our friends at Wild Construction, they're experts at getting up there and finding that kind of damage. And they've got some great resources on their website that you can go to that will show if you were within a storm's radius, if it had hail, and if you suspect that maybe you were, give them a shout. They'll get up on that roof. They'll check it out. Perhaps some damage popped up, and you might get yourself a new roof, Kinger.
Good job. Do they wear booties on the roof? You say roof, and I say roof.
They wear boots.
Boots, okay. You don't need booties. Booties is an inside
WildConstructionMN.com
touch of class.
/ booty. Just kidding.
Great job with the calorie counting off the math. I mean, you're a pro, is what you are.
Let's hear your math now.
Okay, so I'm pretty into points per game. I think it's a valuable stat. It helps you see trending information. Mm-hmm. One of the things Hines has done is it's not even a line. He's playing 5 guys. He's basically like looked at it and is like, I love these 5 guys. Faber being one of them. Typically, this is power play. You know, maybe it's 4 forwards. But so points per game, looking at last year, full season versus this year. Kaprizov is up. He was 1.11 last year. He's 1.23. Zuki up about the same amount, 8.58 last year, over a point a game this year. The 2 guys that are killing it, Baldi and Eck, right? Baldi and Eck, 0.77, 0.78 last year. Now they're at 0.92, 0.931. You get Faber in there at 0.586. So that group of 5 is carrying us offensively. Faber, Zuki, Kaprizov, Baldi, and Eck. Baldi and Eck being the 2 biggest difference makers, and arguably Kirill, because he has traded him for Sidney Crosby in fantasy hockey, never look back. He's just been a stud of studs. Now, what's happening down here is the secondary scoring's dropping off, right? So you got Gaudreau from a 0.46 to a 0.23, right? As much as we love the soul of Freddie Gaudreau. Johansson, 0.9 in a 20-game stretch last year. Now he's 0.46, right? So you're not getting even Hartman. Hartman's relatively close, but 0.62 to 0.56. So that Moose has actually had a nice bounce back. He really had a tough year last year, but now when he has been healthy, he's been helping us. But, you know, you're missing that kind of Maroon, Gaudreau, Johansson. Can we heat up Hartsey? That's kind of the group. And then the goaltending has really been different from last year. The stats on the goaltending are sparkling last year, and they're not as good this year. So I'd love to hear about what's your take on secondary scoring and also the goaltending, because the stats are just not even close year to year.
Secondary scoring is critical, but you only need it when your top line isn't scoring like the Wild's top line is right now. It gets, and that's where it is. You kind of look around the league, the teams that are playing good hockey right now have teams with top lines that are scoring. Tampa Bay all of a sudden has taken over in the East, and they're in a wild card spot where they were on the outside looking in for a long time. What's the difference? Kucherov is the first to 100 points. Boston, you've got the Pasta line. That guy's he's been on fire. They've been great, and boom, they're one of the best in the East too. You can ride a hot line and really make some noise and be good during the regular season. And the Wild are doing that right now. Like Kaprizov, what's he at 18 points in the last 7 games?
He's on fire.
Yeah, over 2 points per game. Eriksson, Ek, Baldi, these guys are playing at a level that I don't know that we've seen. Like, they legitimately cannot be stopped. And It's not just that they're putting the puck in the back of the net, but Baldi, there's an argument that Baldi's been the best player on the ice, and he has just, I think, 14 points since the All-Star break. That's the lowest of the three. I think Ek has 15 and Kaprizov has 18, but I think Baldi's been the best. In the Seattle game, Baldi had a beautiful goal. That was his lone point. Kaprizov ends up with 3 points. Eriksson Ek, I think, had 1-2 there, but that top line, you pick your night, one of those guys is going to be the star of the game, the number one star of the game. And as long as that continues, the Wild will continue to put points up in the standings. Now, secondary scoring, where I think the Wild now, Zuccarello's on the top power play unit, but he's on the second line. So, there all of a sudden is some secondary scoring. And Johansson, I think analytically in the Edmonton game, that Johansson line might have been the best. They had 1,000 chances, and it looked dangerous when they were on the ice. They just couldn't finish it, and Hines stuck with them in the Seattle game, and they score. Zuccarello ends up getting 4 assists in that game, and he's in a spot now where I think some thought maybe he'd pout or he'd sulk or he wouldn't perform as well without Kaprizov. It doesn't look that way at all. Like he's going. So secondary scoring, as long as you have primary apple guy Matt Zuccarello on any line other than Kaprizov, you have secondary scoring because he passes you open.
I actually think I was watching. I don't know. Was he with Johansson or Goudreau? He's with one of them, and it almost must be frustrating to play with Zuki sometimes because if you're not on, like if your game is not exactly where it should be, he's going to put it on your tape at the doorstep 3 or 4 times in a row. It almost turns into an advertising campaign that you're struggling because he's going to set you up. He's looking to set you up. I was going to echo what you were saying. So this is the top 10 NHL. This is just my fantasy hockey site, but I think it's relevant. These are the top 10 players last 28 days. Let's listen to these names. Austin Matthews, number 1. Connor McDavid, number 2. Marner. Kaprizov and Ek, 4 and 5 in terms of scoring and what they're doing. And then you have, Matthew Tkachuk and Kucherov is 10th, right? So it isn't that often that the Minnesota Wild are putting multiple guys into this uber elite. Top 10 players in the league for the last month. 2 of them. With Ek and Kaprizov and Baldi doing what he's doing.
That's what I'm saying. Baldi could arguably be the best.
I know. You could almost have 3 out of the top 10 players in the NHL.
No, let's play devil's advocate.
I don't know if I want to do that.
Is
Jack Hughes the devil?
Do they have to stay there for them to make the playoffs? Can the other guys pick up? Because can you expect these guys to have 2 and 3 point nights every single game?
I don't know.
I don't either. Maybe they can. They've done it since the All-Star break. That's 7 games, 7-game segments. It might be sustainable. And you look at that line when they're together, something's changed, and I think it's entirely Baldi. I do think it's Baldi has all of a sudden figured it out, and he's at a different level mentally than he's ever been. And because of that line can't be stopped. He attacks the middle of the ice. It doesn't matter if he picks it up on the backhand, the forehand, but he's always slashing, cutting towards the net. There's movement when he shoots the puck. The goaltenders, they can't figure it out. He's like a step ahead now to the backhand goal in Seattle. He froze. He pulled his eyes up. He's got a defender sliding over in a tight spot. There's not a lot of room there. He pulls his eyes up. He looks at the goaltender, freezes the goaltender, and the D-man brings it to the backhand, good reach, and then chips it over the goalie's glove. Made it look super easy. There's a lot of elements of confidence there.
He almost plays at overspeed. When I watch Baldi, it feels like someone's pushing him in the back, and he's having to do everything faster than he's able to do it, and he does it. He's going at such a clip, and he pulls it off. He's really been impressive.
Yeah, and the other place I think you can see his confidence is in his hands. So let's pick a play this week. You want the Kaprizov goal when they finally take the lead in the Vancouver game? Who's the one with the strong hands that pulls the puck out of the pile? Baldi. There's a massive bodies there. He's the one that's like a surgeon able to stick his stick in there with a scalpel and just cut out that puck, bring it to somebody, and then put it in a spot to make a pass on somebody's tape. Baldi goal in that game. He knocks it out of midair, down, settles it at his feet without skipping a stride, catching the pass, forehand, backhand. Go to the Edmonton game. He picks up the Middleton pass off the rush on the backhand, cuts it, drops shoulder, forehand, snapper in the net. It's unbelievable. His hands right now, there isn't a puck he can't settle, and within fractions of a second have it ready to make an offensive play. The hands are so clean, so crisp, so fast, so strong. And it's fun to watch, man. And as a guy that like I play, like you just probably sit there and on the bench, you just appreciate what this guy's doing out there on the ice with his hands. It's pretty amazing. But back to devil's advocate. Is that sustainable? Now, where Baldi, in the past, again, with Baldi, I think he's had waves of confidence, but they've burst. You know, like I think I said this in one of the broadcasts too. I view it like a bubble or a balloon. Where confidence, you can get so much of it that it becomes detrimental. You start forcing plays and you're making plays because you think you can, but you actually can't. And sometimes you have to get to a spot where you manage confidence. And I think that takes experience. I think Baldi's managed his confidence really well all of a sudden. Like that balloon, that bubble isn't bursting. He's got it as full as it can be. The PSI is on point, and we're along for the ride. And it seems sustainable. If it is, watch out.
Well, you have that group, right? Like you said, Kaprizov, Ek, Baldi. I throw Zuki in there too, and Faber when it's on the power play. That group of five doing a lot. I wonder if you manage this thing through, if you can just get a couple guys to steal a game. Whether that's Hartman having a big game, maybe Mason Shaw finds his way in the lineup and catch a little magic there. I don't know. It's like the base is those top guys, that top line, and then you just gotta, manage your way through. I mean, you've seen it with Rossi having a nice game, or Brodin's been playing well as well. But I sure hope so. It seems like we're asking a lot of that top line, but. What's your take on the goaltending? So when I was looking at last year, .908, .931 for, save percentage. I think that's probably Bus, not Flower, but, they're both kind of under 9 now. Is that just a team thing? We've given up more, there's more pucks going in our net, goal.
Yeah, goaltending's been up and down, I think. I always have a really hard time assessing goaltending because
me too.
I don't have like a keen eye for what's the goaltender's fault or what's a breakdown. Every time you get a dangerous chance, there's a breakdown from the five guys in front of you somewhere, and that's the player side of me always blames that and doesn't blame the goaltender. It's like you put the goaltender in a bad spot. But you talk to goaltenders and they're like, yeah, you got to stop that. That's your job. So goaltenders have a job too. I'm just not great at knowing where that blame falls. But what I will say is I think 9-10, a 91 save percentage is league average. And all the Wild need right now is 9-10 to win games. They're scoring, they're playing well. I think they're defending well. They're not giving a lot up. So if they can just get that 9-10 save percentage, you're not asking them to get up there into 930, 9-10. That's enough. So if it's there, but if it can consistently be there, that's what they're looking for. I think what happens is they'll go on stretches where they'll get like 950 and then they'll get like 850, and it's. It averages out to be 90. You go on these stretches where you got an 850 save percentage, you lose 4 or 5 games, and then boom, you're done. All you need is consistent, 90 to 91 save percentage, and maybe that sounds easy to do, but I think with the way that they're playing, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and now we go Canes at home. They're good, and then you mentioned this two-step with the Preds and Blues. Wild fans, circle that one on the calendar. And then the Sharks on Sunday at home as well. So, yeah, that's a critical little road dipsy-doozy there with Nash and St. Louis.
Yeah, and it's not make or break right now. Those are big games. And there'll be big games, I think, for like the mentality and the confidence of the group chasing these playoff spots. Like it'll be interesting to see going into these games how they play. Like, can the Wild elevate their game? Can Nashville, St. Louis, can they tighten it up? What that looks like. I think that the Wild can make noise too down the stretch and in the playoffs if they get there for this reason. The way that they've played as of late, expected goals for or against, the Kraken, we had this graphic up in the game the other day. They had a 2.2. The reason they win games is because they don't give a lot up. The Panthers, Florida, one of the best teams in the East, they don't give a lot up. They're number 2. Hurricanes, same. Stars in the West. This is in order for the 6th best teams in terms of expected goals against per game. And the Wild are 5th in that regard. So they're defending well. They're not giving a lot up. And the first round of the playoffs is not about scoring. I know, actually, it's about scoring. You got to outscore the opposition, but it gets harder. And it's more about, can you keep the other team off the scoreboard? There aren't many 10-7 games in the playoffs.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No, it's more 4-3, 4-2, 3-2, 3-1 kind of games all of a sudden. So the Wild are playing like that. And if they can just stay tight, continue to score, I like their chances against both Nashville and St. Louis. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun week for that reason alone. Just watching those, that will be playoff atmosphere type hockey. And are they ready? Can that top line show up? Will they be good? And then all of a sudden, will the depth, who's been, I think, terrific, can they continue to be that?
Are you doing that road trip?
No. I've got the Carolina game.
Yeah,
Now,
but you're doing great. Like, you're a part of this win streak. They should think about stuff like that. You just did Edmonton, Seattle.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Superstitious a little bit.
Yeah, I wore the same zip-up Wild sweatshirt the last 3 games. I just lay it on the floor in my bedroom and I put it back on.
Well, if it's dirty, then I would recommend you give it a wash. And if you like that jersey, those clothes, or whatever you wear all the time, the fabrics, and you want to maintain them, you should probably have soft water. And with that, why don't we throw it to our friends at Aquarius Home Services and we get a word from our sponsors. I think that they're going to want to make sure that they've got some good quality water, and they can find that with Aquarius Home Services. I've got the Connecticut K5 system at my house. It's clear, it's crisp, it's good, refreshing. So you can get one of those, little tap right at your countertop. And heck, if you need a whole home water softener system, that's terrific too. The soap lathers up. You don't need much for your hair. You get good glossy hair with quality water. You don't have to wash your dishes 3-4 times, or after they get out of the dishwasher. Wow, you don't have to scrub the sauce.
This sounds great.
That's off of. Yeah. So, if you've got any water problems, Aquarius Home Services solve them. That's what they do. Check them out. AquariusHomeservices.com.
Well done.
Yeah, man.
So I think if I was going to, go out and get some food or some fresh items, I would probably go to Cub. The reason why is that Cub is one of us. They sponsor this podcast. They were on the Homer Hankies for the Twins. I don't know if you know that. They're also on PJ Flex headset. They're, if you want, whether you're going over there for food or drink, you might want to get some pale ales or some THC sodas. If you want delivery, Cub.com has you sorted. Visit Cub to get the freshest products, including milk. They're one of us. They're local. We love them. Cub.
And thank you from the sponsors. They make the show possible. There's been another kind of trend. So like an overarching, let's fly up to 30,000 feet and look down on the hockey club. So you're without Maroon, you're without Foligno, you're without Bogosian, and those are kind of identity-forming pieces for the Wild. And the 7th Street Savages, that kind of style of game. And it looks different. The team, like you've got Lucchini, Lettieri, a healthy Lettieri looks really good. They're playing with Rossi, that's fast. Duhaime and Dewar are always going to be little water bugs flying around on the ice. It's looked different. They haven't been running around. They've played Kane in the first game back since the Brodin hit. They played Winnipeg in the first game back since the Dillon cross-check kind of thing. And I think they beat them the right way. what have you noticed that there isn't the 7th Street Savage in their game, and is that a good thing?
It's working. I like some violence in my hockey, but I felt the exact same thing. I was looking at the pattern. So we had that Buffalo game, and I remember that was just kind of a game where it was like what's going to happen? Is anybody going to do anything? And I remember thinking, God, I wish Foligno was here. He used to play Buffalo. He'll throw his helmet. Maybe we'll get this one we did end up winning, but it's not there. There isn't any of the 7th Street Savages is not how we're having success right now. It's been high skill. It's been fast. Like you said, it's kind of like we're Winnipeg Junior, right? We're newer at playing this style of hockey with Hines, but it definitely doesn't seem that. As a matter of fact, we've been benefiting from penalties on the other team versus having the rage on our side.
So I think there's another trend. When the Wild are the 7th Street Savages, they tend to take more penalties. And I think Evison used to get frustrated too, and we've asked him at different points because when you lead the league in majors, and it used to be this way in Anaheim. You lead the league in majors, the referees just kind of know that you're a big physical team, and they give you extra minors, and at the end of the year, you didn't feel like you were the most heavily penalized team in the NHL, and you look at the stats, and you were. That's what Anaheim was for years, because they always had George Peros, Brad May. They always wanted tough guys. They wanted to play Brian Burke hockey, and the consequence was taking a lot of minors. And it was similar hockey to everywhere else, but it seems like they get more minors. Mm-hmm. I think that was the case for the Wild too. Is they'll be right up there in the league leading majors, so that they'll fight, they'll stand up for each other. They want to protect the net. They can be physical at times, but because of that, they take a lot of minors. And then I think Dean Evison would get frustrated because they're not penalties, and then he wouldn't get the stick penalties the other way. And it's like, okay, call the physical ones, it's fine, but give me exercise the marble theory, even this out, call one against them. Let's have them 5-5-9 or 4-4. And I think the Wild were losing that battle a little bit, where they'd take 4 or 5 penalties a night and stress the penalty kill. Hines doesn't look like he says boo to anybody on the bench, and the Wild don't say boo to anything. And again, touched on it earlier in the podcast, where it seems like Hines is starting to figure this stuff out and get everything where it needs to be. The group doesn't seem distracted by some of the stuff that's occurring on the ice, and it seems to be paying dividends for him, at least right now. And maybe Hines knows, there's no point in me chasing these games in retribution because I don't have the guys that are actually good at that. So let's deploy a different strategy. Regardless, it's working. And they're not in the penalty box. It's not a parade. They haven't taken more than 4 minors. Well, I take that back. They did in Winnipeg, and they got in trouble there.
They lost.
But there's been a good stretch here, end of January on, where they've had probably an average of 2 to 3 minors against per game. It's not up there in the 4 to 5, and you're not getting the extra ones because the bench is all over everybody, and the referee's like, I'm going to show you. It's just been, it's different. It's interesting. I'm with you. I'm wholeheartedly with you that I like a little bit of hate in my hockey, and I think it's a competitive advantage. But I'm also here. I might be wrong, and maybe it's good in the playoffs and it changes and it's different. I'm not sure, but right now it's looking good that it's a level-headed group playing hockey.
It's funny, we talked about this. That Chicago game that Foligno kind of single-handedly helped us win was identical to the Dallas playoff game where he was getting ejected, right? So, but all of that stuff's connected. The game within the game, what referees think of your squad, the simmering anger from the bench versus the sense of calm. So I think you're right. I think Hines' demeanor has probably been contagious on that bench where guys are just, we gave up the first goal in Seattle too, right? It's like they're just kind of always playing the same, and it's the same mentality. It's great.
Yeah.
And they don't have the guys to do it right now. I mean, it's not even a choice, right?
And Duhaime, I mean, look at the Seattle game. Duhaime tried too. Eriksson gets hit, and Duhaime goes out and fights after, and good for him. That's his job. So, I mean, they have guys that are willing and guys that are more than happy to defend their teammates and stuff. But they've kind of stayed between the paint, and they haven't gone outside that, and it's paid off for them. So, but yeah, big week coming up. I think that right now, like mentally, I've fallen into the trap of looking at the Nashville and St. Louis game.
Oh, yeah.
I've circled those ones. But there's 2 more points in the Carolina game. It's
And San Jose.
and I think that's going to be a challenge for Hines in this group. You come back after, they always talk about that too. You come back after a road trip. It was 3 games, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle. You did well. You come home, first game back, lay an egg. You can't, they won't be able to against Carolina. Now, I'm curious what's going to happen. The Wild have also, there's a couple, they played the backup in the Vancouver game. They played the backup in the Winnipeg game. They played the backup in the Edmonton game, and they played the backup in the Seattle game. Now, Joey Decord was their number 1 for a long time because Grubauer was hurt, but Grubauer is now back. So they've had 4 straight against the backup. And it's possible that they could get Freddie Anderson on Tuesday because he's back. I don't know if that's the case, but now they could get another guy that hasn't played since, I think, November. So, they're taking their breaks and they're catching them in stride too. But can't look past the Carolina game. Let's hope that they get a goaltender that isn't Pyotr Chetkov or somebody that's playing well. That they find a way to get 2 points in that first game back after a road trip. Then he can really focus on the following 2 after that.
Do you think they're playing their backup against us? Is that like a little disrespect or what?
Or the schedule worked out for them. Like you run through gauntlet sets or parts of the schedule where a lot of things are out of your control, where teams are playing, what their rest is, everything else. But everything seems to even out in the end. And the Wild are catching some breaks at a very important time. What was it? The Brodin goal against Pickard, the Edmonton game. That was now that is an area where I can say, what was that goaltender doing? Even the Baldi goal, where was Pickard going? Ryan Hartman throws a backhand to the middle, kind of a hoper, whatever, not a big deal. Like the play was there, he saw it, he made it. Baldi picks it up and shoots it. Pickard was sliding like he wanted to get to the bench. I don't know where he was going. And then in the other one, he's so far off his angle. I don't know how a lefty D-man coming down on the dot line can beat you to the glove side on a slap shot. It's not a righty D-man. That's a lefty D-man. That angle shouldn't be there. That puck shouldn't go in. Goaltending. So they've made teams pay for giving the backup, and whether that is disrespect or not, good for the Wild for taking advantage of it.
No, it's been great. Hey, did you watch the girls' state tournament?
I didn't.
No.
From afar. I mean, we followed it, but I wasn't able to watch.
Well, congrats to War Road, won the single A, and then
That's a three-peat, isn't that? That's a turkey?
Is that 3 in a row? Wow, that's even more impressive. Maybe they'll have to sneak their way up to Double A. And then it was a treat that everyone in the state wanted on Saturday night. Hill Murray.
A sweet treat.
Hill Murray, Edina. That was the matchup the whole state was rooting for. And, everyone's like, let's go down there and watch it. Let's be a part of it. That seems like something for everyone. And Edina got it done, winning the state title.
I like that. What color do both teams wear?
Green.
What color do the Wild wear?
Green.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. No.
Is it the year of green?
It is. Do you know, I think that the team can pick the kit they want for the playoffs. Do you remember this when you were a player? Is that accurate?
No.
See, I heard they can pick. So, could we be in the reverse retros for the playoffs?
No.
I think we can. I don't know. I hope we can. We got to be green. Green's a winner.
Can't be beat.
That's right.
Well, congrats to the Lady Hornets for winning. And Hill Murray, good job. Did you see the gal take the medal off too?
No, would she do the throw, the anger?
Yeah. She wanted to win.
Yeah, no, the thing that got me into it was the Minnetonka Edina game in the semi. I like this coach for Edina, this Sammy Reber. When they won, she's on the bench and she's like, let's effing go. And she just got these white sneakers on and just pumped her fist. And I was like, I think half of the girls are scared of her and half of the girls love her. She just seemed like a badass. 5 out of 8. So I kind of like this. I really enjoy the. Were your daughters into the state tournament?
Yeah, they went.
It's just there was a lot of people there actually for a private school. No one likes playing a public school. No one likes. It was a good atmosphere in the building, and it's just awesome. I love the state tournament. We got another one coming up here in a couple weeks.
All right. Well, that's a good one. Thank you for listening. Thanks to the sponsors. 6 out of 8 points in Gauntlet Week. Now, this is.
What do we need to do here to feel?
I think
this 24.6.
I think it's 6. It's 6 out of 8.
We need another 6. I'm going to write that in the notebook. So we need 6 points out of 8.
So, yeah, I mean, you beat Carolina, you bank 2. You beat San Jose, you bank 2. Then you split Nashville, St. Louis. If you want to do it in grand fashion, you
7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8. But if you could choose, like let's say you had to drop a game, you'd maybe want to pick either Carolina or San Jose, right? So either way, find a way to get 6 points. Let's get 4 against Nashville and St. Louis.
I love it. We're here.
Till it's here.